What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with this. After reports of Usman's injury, Khamzat Chimaev calls out Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards just can't seem to catch a break. He's been on the brink of a title shot for a while, but he's just never had the chance to fight for undisputed welterweight gold. His wish was finally granted several months ago when UFC President Dana White stated that Rocky would be next in line to challenge welterweight champion Kamaru Usman for the title sometime in 2022, but due to a hand injury that Usman suffered in a rematch against Colby Covington last November, the fight was put on ice. It was thought that the two could meet in the octagon this summer, but a recent report stated that Usman's hand injury is taking longer to heal than originally expected, with ligament problems becoming a lingering issue for the champion. Even Usman's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, stated that the fight will not take place in August, though he did say it'll take place in 2022, but it remains to be seen if that's actually the case. Rocky has gone 12 fights unbeaten in the UFC right now, and his last loss was to Usman all the way back in 2015, so you know he wants to avenge that loss. But with the champion on ice for longer than originally expected, here comes surging welterweight Khamzat Chimaev to throw his hat in the ring and call out Edwards. This is what Khamzat stated in a recent tweet. "Let's fight." Chimaev recently beat Gilbert Burns in an incredible fight at UFC 273 earlier this year. Khamzat is used to calling out fighters of all sizes, so it's no different here. Except if he does fight Rocky, he'll most certainly be next in line for the title if he wins. But what do you make of Khamzat calling out Edwards here? Colby Covington is one of the top 5 welterweights of all time according to Uncle Chael. It's no secret that Chael Sonnen and Colby Covington are bros. Two guys from Oregon, two wrestlers, two UFC fighters who have fought the best of the best and never won a title. While Colby continues to make his mark in the octagon, Sonnen, who retired several years ago, continues to support his fellow Oregonian wrestler and states that, in his mind, Colby Covington absolutely belongs on the list of the top 5 welterweights of all time. Some of the greats in the UFC are welterweights, including the legendary Georges St. Pierre, and while GSP is a shoo-in to top the list, another who could be included is Kamaru Usman, the current welterweight champion who some, like UFC President Dana White, believes is already the best welterweight in MMA history. While there could be debate over some of the names that belong in the remaining slots in that list, Sonnen, in a recent video on his YouTube channel, is presenting Colby as one of those names. This is what he stated exactly.
John Anik was asked his list of the top 5 welterweights ever, and he put all the names that you would think. I mean, he paid the homage to the St. Pierres, he paid the homage to the T. Woods. Of course, you can't talk about that without throwing in Matt Hughes, but he did put Colby Covington. Colby Covington, who was never the champion of the world. It was the only non-champion of the world on John's list for top 5 ever. And you know what? John's completely right. Colby is a top 5 ever.
It's a great debate to have, and many could include Colby on this list, despite the fact that he has never actually been crowned an undisputed UFC champion. Do you agree with Sonnen here? Or do you feel that there are others out there who deserve to be on the top 5 list other than Colby? Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to stay up to date on the latest fight news. Frustrated Holly Holm airs it out after losing decision at UFC Vegas 55. Many fans and those in the media believe that Holly Holm decisively won her fight against Ketlen Vieira over the weekend. But all that matters is what the judges think. And after going the full 25 minutes at UFC Vegas 55 at the UFC Apex, Vieira was the one who had her hand raised with a split decision win. But anyone who saw the fight could clearly see that Vieira, for much of that bout, had been stalling out Holm, while the former bantamweight champion looked as good as ever, mounting several offensive attacks. Still, as the saying goes, don't ever leave it in the hands of the judges. And for this one, Holly Holm paid the price as the judges gave the Brazilian, ranked number 5 going into that fight, the victory here. You could see the frustration in Holly Holm's face during the post-fight interview, and stated that she really didn't believe Vieira had seriously won the rounds that were handed to her by the judges. This is what she told MMA Fighting in an interview hours after the fight. "It's just frustrating because I think a lot of times these judges haven't been through a training camp and see what you put on the line, and then when it comes short, just because they decide, well, maybe I'll throw this round here or this round there, I don't agree with them. I'm pretty upset with them. I know it's a hard position to be in, to be the judge. You have to make that decision right there, but I felt like I won." It remains to be seen what's next for Holly Holm, as she was on a 2-fight winning streak, having beaten both Irene Aldana and Raquel Pennington, number 3 and number 4 in the women's bantamweight standings. Meanwhile, Vieira will move up from her number 5 spot, possibly to number 3 or number 2 when the rankings come out later this week. Do you think Holly Holm was robbed in this fight? Or do you feel the right decision? Michael Pereira calls out Jorge Masvidal over his wife, and Steet Jesus responds. Michael Pereira earned a hard-earned split decision win over number 14 ranked welterweight Santiago Ponzinibbio over the weekend at UFC Vegas 55. The Argentinian fighter is no slouch, and for Pereira to come in and take the decision win in a fight that also earned Fight of the Night honors, Pereira will surely see himself ranked in the top 15 in the welterweight division when the rankings come out later this week. After such a barn burner of a fight and a split decision win, Pereira was asked if he wanted to call out anyone in particular, and after calling out Nate Diaz for a fight, he set his sights on Jorge Masvidal. There's certainly a lot going on with Masvidal at the moment, mostly on account of a physical altercation outside of a Miami Beach steakhouse that took place just 2 weeks after he lost a decision to Colby Covington. Masvidal is facing felony charges, is in legal hot water over the incident. Steet Jesus had also recently accepted a fight against Gilbert Burns, who called him out in a recent interview. But despite all that, there's a specific reason Pereira wants to fight Masvidal, and it has to do with an emoji. This is what Pereira stated. So he sent an emoji to my wife, the emoji with the two hands together like amen. He sent it to my wife and didn't send it to me. And I never actually crossed paths with him, never had the chance to ask him, so I figured, I really want to understand, but might as well understand inside the octagon, so we'll just settle it over there. The Brazilian is on a 5-fight winning streak dating back to 2020, so he's been pretty active over the last few years, looking to make his way to the top 10 of the welterweight division. But Masvidal saw that call out, and he posted a screenshot of their DMs and tweeted this out in response. How crazy a world and how far has society fallen that this idiot Pereira would use his wife to hopefully one day get a paycheck and create a fake narrative to try and get a fight with me when clearly he sees she slid in my DM. Wishing you guys the best. #marriage counselor. What do you think of Masvidal's response here? Would you want to see Michael Pereira fight Jorge Masvidal? And who do you think would win that fight?
Charles Oliveira. I like the kid, but at the end of the day, Charles Oliveira is not the best lightweight in the world. He's not. And people are clowns. They say he's the greatest lightweight ever. How are you gonna say he's the greatest lightweight ever? The man been submitted 4 times. He's been finished. But I guarantee you, I can put my house on it. Islam Makhachev will finish him. Beneil Dariush will finish him. The game, style make fights. Charles Oliveira is not the best lightweight in the world. Charles Oliveira, I don't think he's the best lightweight, respectfully. I believe he will lose to a lot of guys. I think Islam will beat him. I think Beneil will beat him. I think Arman Sarukian will beat him. And I don't even manage Arman Sarukian. But I think he'll beat Charles Oliveira too. I think Islam definitely can submit him and dominate him. Islam can make him look like an amateur. 100%.
Carlos Felipe popped for PEDs, out for 2 years as Almeida vouches for his friend. After earning his second straight win in the octagon, a submission victory over Parker Porter at UFC Vegas 55 this past weekend, Jailton Almeida took advantage of his mic time during the post-fight press conference and extended his support for fellow Brazilian fighter and teammate Carlos Felipe. Felipe was recently handed a 2-year USADA suspension for testing positive for performance-enhancing drug. It's his second infraction while in the UFC, and second time he'll be sitting on the sidelines for 2 whole years. Felipe, a fighter in the heavyweight division, had originally popped for taking PEDs shortly before he was supposed to make his UFC debut back in 2017. He sat out for a few years and finally got a chance to show his mettle in the world's biggest promotion in 2020, dropping a split decision against Sergey Spivak in July of that year. Felipe bounced back from that to win 3 straight fights until he ran into former heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovski in October of last year. He was popped for PEDs again following that loss and will now be unable to compete in the octagon until at least April 2023. So here's Almeida showing support for his friend following his win this past weekend. We believe that he was unjustly caught in the doping test. We know that he didn't do anything, but something popped in his test. He has done it before and he openly talks about it, having used before when he was caught the first time. But he's not a dumb person. He knows what he has to do in order to stay clean and stay in the sport. So I know that he didn't do it, and he's gonna be back here very soon. Meanwhile, Almeida, who won a contract to enter the UFC following a big win in the Contender Series in 2021, he's now 2-0 in the UFC at both light heavyweight and now heavyweight. What do you make of this whole situation? Thanks so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.